I think something that could also be interesting is, do you have any like war stories or anywhere where you're like in the early days where you're like, okay, now yeah, it could be when COVID hit, it could also be another where you lost your first contract, or someone where you're like, wow, okay, are we sure are we doing the right things here? What any point where you like faced a big challenge or something in the early days?
Well, what I would say is when we set up, two things. Number one, the industry support was pretty phenomenal. Actually, more so from the senior people in various firms. Great to see you've made the step. Congratulations. Anything we can support with your work. Really quite genuine from most people in the sector, which was really refreshing. But I think what also was really amazing is the amount of support we got from people who may have left companies, they may have worked with us in the past, they may have gone on to do their own thing. And there was this sort of inflood of people saying, look, if you ever need some help, let me know. So we definitely did some begging and borrowing and stealing in the early days. There's no doubt about it. And yeah, I'll never forget our first contract, a small American law firm. Well, not particularly small actually. It was an American law firm, and we'd done a pitch, we'd done a proposal, we'd done a presentation. We got quite far down the track in what was a full blown competitive process, and we sort of got the nod that we were selected. And then the client said, "Oh, but our partner wants to come out and see one of your locations." And we said at the time, "Well, fine well, we haven't got any business and we haven't got any locations. So, what's your thoughts?" And he said, "Look, we've got to find something to, demonstrate. We've got to show the partner what you're about, and your food style." So we approached one of our suppliers who has a big office in London. We took over their training room. We brought in a coffee bar and our coffee supplier. We built a big IKEA butcher's block and covered it with nice salads. And we made some great deli sandwiches, and we set up a little hospitality area. And we put our team in branded uniform. And we set this supplier room up as a staff restaurant, not pretending it was anything other than a food demonstration. We weren't trying to convince his partner it was one of our staff restaurants. She turned up and we went through it all, and we shook hands there and then, and that was our first contract. Um, and it was it was great. I mean, but you think about now, if you want to show a proposed client one of your operations, you pick up the phone, you ask your client, you get it in a diary, and a couple of days later, you've done a site visit and a tour. You take for granted those sort of some of the challenges you faced. Well, it does force you to be very creative. You think differently, pull on all the resources that you've built up over time. And as I say, it's amazing how many people want to support that initiative. Clients, teams, suppliers. Suppliers is another thing. Even an old colleague of ours from a previous employment, we sort of when we said we were leaving, and we were setting up our own, he said, "Look, one of your biggest challenges is going to be get credit from your supply chain. Don't take for granted 30-day terms." And although we valued that advice, it was quite the opposite. We were approached by a number of suppliers who we'd worked with over the course of, 15, 20 years throughout our careers, saying, we want to be part of your journey. Anything we can help with. Everything from giving us office space to being sensors to credit to whatever it might be. But that didn't cross our mind when we left, thinking we might not be able to get credit from suppliers. It didn't even cross our mind. Um, but yeah, you need that support and the help along the way.